Liz, I'm a business manager at NDL, and my role is to have conversations like this with people like you. So I'm a local government expert, as it were. So I work with organisations like you day to day, have any sorts of conversations from early stages, perhaps scoping, any sorts of demos. I can facilitate all that. So kind of take you on that RPA journey, as it were, from start to hopefully end. Got a couple of helpers with me today as well. So Mark, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Liz. So I'm Mark Exley. I'm one of the account managers here. Like Liz, I also specialise in local government and some housing associations as well. But I focus more on existing accounts and existing customers. So that's people that are already contracted to use our services. But similar to Liz, I work with them to do scoping sessions, feasibility, speak to them about products and processes that they want to get live. So that's a little bit from me. And we've also got Hannah on the call, who's an account manager here at NDL as well.
Thanks, Mark. Yes, yeah. Hi, everybody, and good morning. Thank you for the introduction. I'm Hannah Gilbank, one of the account managers here at NDL Software, and like Mark, in a similar role, I'm here to support customers sort of after that onboarding process. I'm here to essentially support you to get the very best out of the software to achieve a good return on investment. And I often joke that I'm here for the good, the bad, the ugly, anything that you need. I'm here as just a day-to-day support and again, facilitating as you sort of work along your digital journey, facilitating more scoping, more feasibility, more projects, sharing of ideas. And like Mark and Liz, I specialise in local government too, with a little bit of NHS as well. So I shall pass on to Liz now, ready to get going.
Thank you both. So I've put the objectives and agenda together just for the sake of time, because they are sort of one and the same, but we've split it down into 3 different sections that we're going to talk through today. So the first of all is share learnings. Now, you may or may not know about NDL, but we've been in the automation game for about 40 years now. Appreciate it's changed massively over that time span. But what that means is we've got a lot of experience in that. And also we only work with the public sector, so local government, NHS, housing organisations, that's where we specialise. So it is quite possible that we will work with your systems, we will know all about them, so we really specialise in that manner. So we'd like to share with you today what we know about RPA and how you can use it, and also how to harness a culture of collaboration. That's going to be a big thing today. After we've gone onto that piece, we'll move on to inspire, because we've got lots of great use cases through many of our customers that use RPA in many different forms, so we'll talk through some of those. And another key thing today is you're going to be able to walk away with these resources to help educate people at your organisation. So a couple of tasks, a couple of use cases, and then also the workshop at the end. The hope is that you can take this away back to your organisation and run them with your guys there. And finally, and hopefully, we're going to excite you a little bit. So we want to calculate the ROI potential for your real life processes. I know Nick sent out an email asking you to bring along some ideas of transaction numbers, kind of processes, that sort of thing. Be great if you have those to hand. If not, we've got some that we can run through the calculator so you can see a couple of examples of what it would look like at your organisation. And of course, we want to create a fun, interactive and collaborative session. So the first thing I'm going to do is paint a bit of a picture about what the word digital means. It means lots of different things to lots of people. Obviously, main thing, that front office, you want to present and share your data. A couple of ways you could do that, apps and e-forms, but then the automation piece into the back office is key as well. Again, a couple of options, APIs. We always say if you've got them, use them. If they do what you want them to do, fab, but sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're a bit costly. At NDL, we do actually have a product which is no-code API connectors. So if you've got an API definition you're struggling with, let us know. We can potentially help you with that. Alongside APIs, you've also got workflow, and what we're talking about today is RPA. So that encompasses the back office integration side of things. Along with the front office to back office, you've got things like hardware. So that's what you use day to day, your PC, your laptop, your phone. And then also, how are you going to connect that? Are you up in the cloud? Are you out and about with 4G, 5G? Lots of things to think about. But as you can see at the centre of all this, we've got people, because it's what Nick said at the beginning. People have this preconception of digital. They think it's going to take over people's jobs, but realistically, people are here to stay. So they have to stay at the centre of everything you do in your digital transformation. And in terms of RPA, this is what we think it could and perhaps should look like, to be fair. So the customers we see that are the most successful have this core RPA team, but that in itself needs to involve a lot of different people. Because when you're thinking about RPA, it's not as simple as one of the heads of service saying, we would like to automate this process, please, because your IT team will be thinking, hang on, we don't know what infrastructure we need, we don't know what resource we have, can we support this? And equally on the flip side, if your IT say, oh, we want to use automation, it's the heads of service that will be like, hang on, it's my team that do this day to day, we know the process, you don't. How can you automate it without knowing what it is? So that's why it's key to have those expert users as well involved. So massively important to have both sides involved from the beginning. From an NDL perspective, obviously Mark, Hannah and I are all the account management side. As I mentioned, our main role is to really drive the use of the software across your company, and we can help with that in many different ways. Then obviously a big thing today is that digital community, which you are all part of. So it's quite possible that you might have similar problems, meaning you might have similar solutions. So we really do recommend talking to other people, especially in forums like today. You might think, oh, I would love to automate this process, and then you've got council down the road doing exactly that. So it seems silly to start from scratch when you could lean on that digital community, which is why we've got sessions like this today, which is great. So now painting a bit of a picture, I'll move on to what we think the path to success looks like, which is the name of the webinar, kind of why you're all here today, I guess. At NDL, we've split this down into 6 phases. Now, full disclosure, it doesn't have to be sequential. You might get to stage 3 and think, oh, wait, we're not ready for this, go back to 1, and it might work like that. But the way we've broken it down is the first stage is that discovery phase, and that's learning what is RPA, where might you use it, what can it do, what can't it do. And once you've got that knowledge, then you need to make sure your organisation is ready for RPA. You need to know what your drivers are, where you can use it, and where it would most beneficial your organisation. And that stage probably has more questions than answers, to be fair. But once you think, yep, I know what RPA is, yep, we're ready for it, it's time to start engaging with what the potential solutions are out there. A big thing is to think about the long-term focus of RPA. There's no point thinking, oh, I want to automate this one process. Think 2-3 years down the line, what do you want your organisation to look like there? And then once you've engaged, then you can think about how you want to prove RPA and how it works and how it would work for you. And that's all about defining your measures for success. And again, that will differ for every organisation. You will all have different ones, but a couple of options. You could do a proof of concept, that's quite popular. You could do something quick and dirty, prove that RPA can move data from A to B, and that would be enough for you. We've got organisations doing a 1-year pilot where they've got 8-9 processes they want to push live in the first year, and that is their measures, and they're like, yeah, RPA is good for us, let's go for it. Once you've proven it works, it's time to accelerate. Now, we'll talk a bit about AI later, but a great way of accelerating RPA is using it with AI. And that's where you get intelligent automation. But if you think back to the digital landscape I just showed you, if you have that front-end data capture, you've got information going into your apps, your e-forms, and you can pull it through into your back office systems using RPA there, another good reason. And then also, well, when you've done all that, I suppose it's business as usual, can't live without it, and it's key to your organisation. Main things we're going to focus on today is that discovery and readiness piece. And the main thing that comes from that is that education. So that's why we're going to kick off with the share learnings. Now, I appreciate we've got lots of different people in the room here. You might be using RPA day to day in your life, absolutely fine. You might be using it in one process and want to push it out further, or you might just be at the very beginning. So this is why we're going to keep it high level in terms of what RPA is. But the main reason for this session is today is how you can push it out further and how you can utilise it to its full potential. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Mark now to start us off with a little game.
Yeah, thanks, Liz. So yes, we're now going to play a little game we at NDL like to call Beat the Bot. The premise is fairly simple. What we'll be asking you to do is there's a QR code just on the right of the slide there. If you could scan that, that's going to take you to a web page where in a moment I'm going to be asking you to rekey some information into a web form. And as the name suggests, we'll be seeing if you can do it fast enough to beat the bot. So I'll just give everybody a few seconds to scan that QR code there, but it will be contained on one of the further slides as well. So as I say, if you haven't had a chance to scan that, we'll bring it back up in a moment, but I just wanted to show you a quick video of the bot in action, just so you can get a gauge of how quickly and how efficiently it's able to get through that information. So as you can see here, the bot's inputting all the information very, very quickly. It's doing so without making any errors or spelling mistakes or anything like that. And at around 15 seconds, it's going to have completed its first entry. There we go. And it's well on its way with its second one in just a few moments. So we will be playing this video throughout, but I imagine everybody will be concentrating on trying to rekey the information. So I just thought it'd be worthwhile giving you an opportunity to see that ahead of time. So on to the next slide. As I say, the QR code is there as well if anybody hasn't had a chance to scan it. The information down the left-hand side is the details that we'll be asking you to rekey into the web form, although don't start just yet. I'll give everybody else a few more moments to make sure that's open. And once everybody's ready, we'll start that all at the same time. One thing I would like to ask, if you could use the raise hand function in Teams to put your hand up when you're done, that way we can get a good gauge of who's done that quickest. We'll probably be looking at the top 5, top 7 today, because I know there's a lot of people on the call. So it's very much a fastest finger first. So let's see how everybody can do there. So before we get going, is there anybody that's not been able to get that open yet? Okay, I'll take that as we're ready. So we'll go in 3, 2, 1, and go. Yes, the bot's coming up to completing its first one there. Hope everybody's getting on well.
The big thing is we don't want any mistakes as well, because the bot's not going to be making any mistakes, so we don't want you guys to either. Just to add some more pressure on.
Ooh, and there we go. It's just finishing its second entry now. Don't know how everybody's getting on over there. Oh, there we go. We've got our first one. It looks like the fastest finger was Alex Bryson. So very well done.
That was very Who Wants to Be a Millionaire of you.
Yeah, so the bot's just finishing its third one there. We'll give it a little bit longer for other people to get their hands up there. We've just got one at the moment. Oh, there we go. And Debbie Kennett's come in at second there as well.
We've got 3, 4, 5 now.
Ah, there we go. Give it a couple more seconds there, see if we can get a top 7, and then we'll move on to the next slide. Ah, there we go. Great. So yes, we've got a good top 7 there, and that was done all in about 1 minute 40 seconds. As you can see, in that time, the bot's just moving on to its 6th entry now. So as fast as you were, the bot was very, very quick there. So I'll just quickly pause that video. If I could ask if people could just put their hands down now once they're done, just that way, if anybody has any questions or wants to highlight anything throughout, we can see when your hands go up there. Thank you. So just before I hand you back to my colleague Liz, just wanted to tie that together by looking at what we see as some of the key roles within an organisation across the human workforce and the virtual workforce. Now, as Liz touched on previously, there can be a bit of a misconception in the market around RPA and bots, how it can make certain roles redundant or take away jobs. In reality, the human workforce is here to stay, but so is the virtual workforce. And in today's environment, we think it's really important for those two to work in conjunction with each other, making sure that the human workforce is utilising whatever virtual tools it needs to make your job as easy and efficient as possible. Simply put, there's a lot of things that humans are much better at and that bots simply can't do. Anything that involves verbal communication or anything with a little bit of creativity or compassion or subjective thought. But then there's a lot of tasks that are perfect to be passed over to the virtual workforce, things that are very repetitive or require a lot of consistent accuracy or 24/7 working. One of the reasons we like to use Beat the Bot as a bit of an exercise here is it really showcases the ideal type of task that could be handed over to a bot, take that away from your workload and free you up to spend more time on the really important aspects of your role. And now I'll hand you back over to Liz, who's going to speak in a bit more detail about what RPA can do.
Thank you, Mark. So as I said, people will have different levels of knowledge of RPA, but the main thing today is if we can tell you the information, how you can pass it on in your organisation, I think that would be very helpful for you and also people you work with. So what is RPA? essentially, if you've got a process and you want to automate it using a robot, that is essentially how I like to break it down. And ignore what you saw in Nick's background. These are software robots. These are not real robots. And they execute rules-based tasks. And these bots drive the user interface of a system. So just as you'd be tapping away, clicking away in your back office system, that's what the bot would do there, because it's just emulating that human behavior. Now, the bots can be used at scale, so you can ramp them up during certain times. If you've got lots of traffic on your server during weekdays, you can really ramp them up on times such as evenings and weekends, when perhaps they could get more done and really utilize them that way. If you've got a good scheduling tool as well, it's not necessarily one bot per process as well. They could do one thing and then be scheduled to do another. So you can get quite clever and have multiple things going on if you set the right rules there. There's a couple of different types of automation as well, because you've got attended and unattended. So attended is when they're sat alongside the user. So think of it as your little digital helper sat on your laptop. It's great for things like if a citizen rings in and says, oh, I've changed my mobile number, you could update that once in your CRM maybe, and then the bot can lock your screen and then take it round your other back office systems and update that for you. And then it would give control back to you. The reason the bot needs to lock the screen is if me and Mark tried to write an email at the same time on the same laptop, that wouldn't work. So same sort of thing, your bot needs to have control of your screen for that. And then you've got unattended, where it's not sat alongside the user and is sat perhaps on a server or waiting for information in a database. So again, it's setting those rules that the bot knows what it's waiting out for. If it's some information dropped into a database, it will just go on its merry way and do that information there. What a bot can do, so it's all about automating those repetitive tasks, and it does that by following pre-programmed rules and logic, because that's what the bots love. So if you tell a bot, if this, do this, if that, do that, it will do that. As we've proved in Beat the Bot, it can definitely work quicker than a human and work more accurately than a human, because it will just pick up the information that is already there. It's not going to put a number in a text field or vice versa. It knows what it has to do. And then because it's using driving the user interface of a system, it can drive any system because it's just as if a human were doing it that way. Can work 24/7, doesn't need any breaks, doesn't need to go on holiday, it can just keep going. And as I mentioned earlier, you can scale up and down based on your requirements. But it wouldn't be fair for me to sit here and say how great they are without telling you perhaps some limitations of what a bot cannot do, just to make sure that education piece is there, so we're not selling the wrong thing. The bots can't think for itself and they can't learn. They can't handle unique scenarios. So if it gets to a stage and there's no information in the box, it's expecting there to be information, it won't think, oh, maybe it's the next one down. It will just stop. It doesn't know how to handle that. It's got no interpersonal skills. I know when we give our manager grief on a Friday afternoon, he says he wants to replace us with robots, but he can't do that, fortunately for us, I guess, because they can't problem solve either. And the bots can't fix bad processes. They will just do your bad process faster, which again is not what we want. Process refinement is very key as well. You do need to map it out how it looks now and how you want it to look before you put a bot on it, because like I said, it's not going to make it any better. And they can also speed up systems. From working in the public sector and local governments specifically, I know perhaps some of your systems are a bit old, a bit slow, a bit clunky. And if anyone says the word Paris to me, I'm out of here, because we know they're not typically very nice to work with. But again, if you put a bot on that, it can't make your system go faster. More often than not, we will have to add in some code that the bot waits for 5 seconds whilst the system's loading to bring up that pop-up. Lots of different ways RPA can be used. Again, you might already do some of these, you might want to do some of these, but again, just some examples. That front-end integration. So putting data into an e-form, the bot can pick it up into your back office system. Migrations we'll talk a bit about later, but that's that big lift and shift of data. So you might change revs and bends system or your social care system, and all that data you've got needs to come with you. RPA is a great way of doing that if you don't have the APIs available, because for a human to sit there and just save a PDF and upload it into a new system, millions and millions of documents would take an obscene amount of time. So I think RPA is a great option for that. Synchronization is what I said about earlier, is having that golden record of information for your citizens. If anything changes, a bot can go and just update all your systems, so you've not got any missing information there or different. Extraction, RPA can pull reports at any nominated date or time you like. Data integration and intelligent automation. So I can see in the chat there's a bit going on about AI. I haven't had time to read the discussion, but this is where you can link AI and RPA together to get that intelligent automation. So hopefully we'll shed a bit of light on it. But what is intelligent automation and what does it do? So intelligent automation is not actually a technology, it's a terminology, and that refers to AI tools interacting with an RPA tool to create that fully end-to-end digital process. Now, as we all know, there's a lot of buzz in the market at the minute. Lots of people are wanting to incorporate an AI. So combining it with RPA is a great option if you do want to push out those complex automations and have that full end-to-end digitized process. But it's what I said earlier about how RPA can only deal with what we call structured information. And that's the sort of data that you would move around a traditional IT system or between databases. But cognitive services, or AI, they can deal with unstructured information, and that's things you would find outside of an IT system, so voices or images, that sort of thing. So if you look at the diagram, the unstructured information on the left has lots of different data points. So if you use the example of someone's voice, for instance, the AI tool would need to interpret what language they're speaking, the accent, the tone, any phrases that are local to that area. But it's that hidden layer, which is a cognitive service that can trap and interpret all of this information and then present it as structured data. Then once you've got that structured data, because the bots love that, they can pick that up and then it can be integrated into your back office systems that way. And it's this end-to-end process that intelligent automation refers to. Now, I know in councils you probably deal with a lot of unstructured information. The example I'm going to show you now is something that every organisation deals with actually, and that's invoices. So I don't know why, but there's no standard format for an invoice. You could have the purchase order in the bottom left or top right, address top left, top right. And because the bot is being told where to go, it can't pick out that information if it's not where it's expected to be. So I've just got a quick video now I want to show you of using a cognitive service and RPA, and that is the Microsoft Forms Recognizer. So this was done by one of our developers who had never used it before, and he trained the Forms Recognizer in about 20 minutes to be able to read some simple invoices, and then RPA could pick up that structured data. So I'll just play this for you and enjoy the funky music as well. As you can see, lots of different invoices, lots of different unstructured information, but you need to extract that information somehow. They drag all the invoices into a folder, and that's being monitored by our orchestration tool. And then that submits them into the form recognizer. And then the robots work through and they can pull it out into a spreadsheet, which is therefore some structured data. Yeah, so that's a great example of how you can use AI and RPA together to do some really complex stuff. Like I said, everyone uses invoices, so I think it'd be a great example of how you could combine both to do something very powerful. And you guys will know more than me about all the unstructured information you see in your organisation. So having that tool, but then linking it with RPA to have that end-to-end digitized process would definitely help. And now we've covered a bit about what RPA is, I'll hand back over to Mark, who's going to talk you through some use cases.
Yeah, thanks, Liz. Yes, so as Liz mentioned, I just want to go over with you in a little bit more detail a few of the success stories from across the NDL community, talking about how some of our customers have used RPA and other digital technologies to streamline their processes. So the first one that I want to speak to you about is Moray Council, who, apologies. is Moray Council, who improved resident experience with end-to-end digital transformation. They did this by creating a purpose-built app in their housing repairs service that allowed tradespeople out in the field to be able to access information from multiple systems. They were able to update job information and record materials used and much, much more. And they used RPA in the back end to fully integrate this with all of their new and existing systems. Now, this provided a number of tangible benefits, the first one being that response times were much below the national average. They were able to get through their repair requests around 50% quicker than other councils within the UK. They saw hugely improved efficiency as well because jobs were allocated a lot more intelligently. This led to significant financial savings because they were allocating jobs a lot more intelligently. It meant that they were relying less on tradespeople out in the field. And it also led to a number of environmental benefits because they found that because tradespeople were travelling less between jobs, they had a greatly reduced carbon footprint as well. So the next one I'd like to speak to you about is Warwickshire City Council and how they digitise their end-to-end home visits process. Now, to give you a little bit of background here, Warwickshire County Council's re-enablement service supports their residents to live as independently as possible in the community when they have additional needs. And similar to Moray Council, they did this by creating a purpose-built app that occupational therapists could use while out in the field, because they would need to go to residents' houses, assess them, see if they need any adaptations putting in, such as rails, and then they would need to record all that information. The app that they developed allowed them to capture all that information digitally, and it also allowed them to, by using RPA, create a template document off the back of that that contained all the relevant information, things like you could include annotated pictures, where you could include exact dimensions of where any adaptations needed to be made, and that could be sent directly to the fitting supplier through their ordering system, fully streamlining that process. So this led to a number of benefits, primarily that they were able to do fast-track accessibility fittings for residents with additional needs seeking independence. It led to huge time savings, around 50%, not only for occupational therapists, but for residents and for council admin staff as a whole. It completely eradicated data rekeying, and it improved the accuracy and data quality of the information the council were receiving as well. So the next one I'd like to speak to you about is Swindon Borough Council and how they used RPA to automate their free school meals process. Now, to give you a little bit of background on this, this was born out of the COVID-19 pandemic, and as I'm sure you remember, a lot of people were unexpectedly forced into the benefits system due to the pandemic. And at Swindon Borough Council alone, this led to a year-on-year increase of 2,000% in the demand for free school meals applications. As you can imagine, that's a lot of demand to try and combat with. So in order to streamline that service, they created an automated service that allowed parents or carers to complete an easy online form to request free school meals. Once that was done, the RPA bots would pick up that information and check it against all relevant council systems, all relevant Department of Education systems, hugely minimising the manual admin tasks around that process. And as you can imagine, that led to a number of benefits for Swindon Borough Council. Primarily, the application turnaround time for parents and carers was vastly reduced by around 66%. They also recorded a 98% efficiency when processing data using RPA compared to the previous model, which allowed them to effectively manage a consistently high volume of applications, as well as increasing the safeguarding of sensitive information by reducing data errors and eradicating rekeying. And finally, I'd just like to speak to you about Norwich City Council. This is another process that was born out of the COVID-19 pandemic. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Breathing Space, but it is a government-directed scheme that allows debtors to seek 60 days of debt relief. And Norwich City Council wanted to implement that as efficiently as possible. And they did that by creating an automated system that allowed people to independently seek 6 days of breathing space online. Once this was done, the RPA bots would pick that information up, check it against all relevant systems in the back end, making sure that any debts were frozen very, very quickly. Further to this, they also ensured that it meant residents only needed to contact the council on one single occasion, and once they did that, all of the records would be updated automatically and no further contact would be made to that resident within the 60-day period. So the primary benefits that the council reported back to us on that was that it allowed them to very quickly deploy the breathing space scheme. It led to significant time savings when processing resident inquiries that came in through the scheme. It improved the accuracy and data quality, which we've touched on before, but it also unified interdepartmental data and information across all the council systems. From a resident perspective, it hugely reduced the negative financial impacts from the pandemic and allowed them to seek debt advice in a dignified manner, which in turn reduces the stress and potential mental health implications from suffering from debt. Now, on the next slide, I won't go into as much detail here, but we just wanted to highlight a few of the large-scale document migrations that a number of the customers from across the NDL community have used RPA to help with. Now, I won't go into detail on all of these, but a couple of examples. Wyre Council and Medway Council both used RPA to migrate around 5 million records from Camino to Northgate. Gosport City Council also used RPA to migrate around 1.5 million documents, again, over to Northgate from Civica. And Portsmouth City Council used RPA to migrate around 6 million documents over to their new document management system, which we'll speak about in a little bit more detail on the next slide as well. So this is just a quick video I wanted to show you, which gives you an idea of how we can easily scale up the process. So this video shows data extraction being completed using RPA bots within Portsmouth City Council's Revs and Bens department. Now, as you can see, it's working through that information far quicker than a human could. And it's a good example of showing you how we can scale up a process when needed, such as around election time when transaction numbers are very high, and then scale it back down again at a later date. So yeah, you can see it's flying through that information there, and it's doing it on multiple different screens simultaneously. But now I will hand you back over to Liz, who's going to introduce the next interactive portion of the webinar.
Fab, thank you, Mark. As just mentioned, this is where we're going to get you guys to get talking. Hopefully Nick will be in the background sorting out some breakout rooms, but I'll fill the time whilst he confirms that by just explaining what we're going to do. Oh, Nick is here.
They are prepared, so feel free to tell everyone and then I can send them off to their rooms.
Thank you. So the point of this exercise is to break you down into smaller groups, get you talking to each other. Again, some of you might already be using RPA, some of you are looking into it, so it'd be interesting to know, those of you who are using RPA, what you're doing, and then if you're wanting to use RPA, what you would like to do. So we've got a handy little tool actually where we can do some magic maths behind the scenes. So if you've got any details of transaction numbers, how long it takes, what the frequency is, we can put those through the calculator and show you how much time you could save if you automated that process. We've got some examples to run through with you in each of our breakout rooms, so that's fine if you don't have any. And just to spur a little competition as well between Hannah, Mark and I, our groups will have a little competition who can save the most amount of days. And you can't cheat and use a migration project because they're just ridiculous in terms of millions and millions of documents, but they're a good example as Mark just showed you. So yeah, Nick, I think we're ready to be dispersed, please.
Dispersal starting now.
We'll have about 10 minutes. We'll put it in the chat if people are done, people are not done, but yeah, if we aim for around 10 to come back, then we'll just wrap up. I always hate the countdown. I'm going to be talking, it's going to fling me out at any given moment. Just a couple to end on.
Yes,
That's okay.
Yes, of course.
Fab. Obviously, couple of minutes left, don't worry, I won't keep it past 11. And main thing is, I guess we want to know how much time we did save. So I, in my team, put one through that I've had from one of my customers. It's all about verifying earnings and the pension data. So that involves going into multiple different systems to check they're eligible and then automating that process. They do, well, average 40 a day, and it takes 40 minutes per working day manually to do that. So if they were automated, they would save 764 days per year. Can anyone beat me? Hannah?
Not quite. We've I think you got me there, Liz. We were looking at an integration for planning enforcement. So essentially it's when the citizens make comments, complaints, concerns about various different planning that's taking place, whether that's residential or business, commercial, and it's the automation of the data that they receive from their citizens and how that's pushed out to the planning enforcement agents. We got let me see, 344 working days saved per year.
Still pretty
With an
decent.
average of 48, so really, really good. We spent quite a bit of time talking about the other benefits, such as improved data quality, richness of data, less mistakes. You know, so it was a good one.
Good. And very quickly, Mark, what did you go for?
Yeah, so we cheated slightly because I used a process that I'm very familiar with one of my customers, Medway Council's environmental services queries, but it did come out at a very high number of annual days saved because their average daily transactions are over 1,500. It only saves them a couple of minutes per transaction, but they're doing thousands and thousands of transactions every week, so it works out a working day saved of just under 1,500 per year, 1,495.
I think you win then, Mark. Good effort. Not that you cheated, but I'll give you that.
I avoided migrations as instructed.
That is true. Thank you. I just put the objectives on. I can confirm I've ticked them off because I did the slides, so I don't have to run through all those. Again, please indulge me for 20 seconds of a sales spiel about who NDL are. We're SME based in Wetherby in lovely Yorkshire. We do that end-to-end digital transformation. So our Evolve transformation platform is 4 products, all the way from that front-end data capture. We've got low-code apps and e-forms to digitize, and then a few automation products as well. Flow is the complex workflows. That's drag and drop no-code. I mentioned Connect earlier. That's the no-code API connectors. And then obviously Automate is what we've spoken about today. Hopefully you've learned a lot today. Hopefully there's things you can go back to your organisation with. That's how we managed to run this session today, is to give you the tools to go back to your organisation. So please let us know what you'd like. We can do Beat the Bot, we can do the ROI workshop, demos, out of the possible, that sort of thing. So yeah, please let us know. I'm sure Nick will be in touch and we might as well. So yeah, thank you everybody. And Nick, that's me. Perfect to time, I must say as well.
Yes, that's brilliant. And thank you very